Hello everyone, I'm Brian, welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue.
So Sadhguru, I have one last question from our side. Sometime back, I happened to be in a situation where a friend of mine was drunk. So when she was in the drunk state, she was repeatedly saying that please don't judge me as I'm drinking. Please don't judge me.
It is, but she's lost her judgment, but she doesn't want you.
So my question is whether it is alcohol or not, in life, why are we so apprehensive about being judged by others? And how can we not let this come on our way of being happy?
Hmm. To me, I don't know if I necessarily care about judgment per se. I mean, the reason why being is that I try to live my life the best that I can, doing the best that I can. So if the best I can ain't cutting it, well then whatever they say is the truth, generally speaking, if they're genuine about what they mean. So for example, if I did a horrible drawing, it's like, oh man, that drawing's horrible. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the best I got though. It's like, and they say it's terrible, it's ugly, it's not worth the art. She says, yeah, probably right, but art is subjective, so booyah. Nah. But I mean, I'm very realistic in terms of of things. So if someone criticizes me, and if it makes sense and it's legit, then I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. If they praise me, I don't really like praises necessarily because that's I don't know, it's really weird. I'll say the thing I like the most is that if people were to say, it's like, yeah, you got me thinking, or you've helped me in my life, I like that more than praises. Significantly more than praises. Praises I don't really care for. I mean, I get it at the same time, it's just, it feels weird. So, but at the same time, with her friend, she needs to take responsibility. That's always the big thing for me is that if she drinks to the point where she's lost her faculties in a sense, then she's not a responsible person. She needs not to get like that. And that says a lot about her. You could say. Depends on how often she does it, of course, and where she does it. If she does it responsibly, she's home alone, she gets really drunk. I don't know why you'd want to get really drunk, but that's a whole different story. But as long as she's responsible, like with a friend in a house that she's familiar with, like her house or her friend's house, but even then, just you don't want to ever get to that point, regardless of the conditions or what your conditions that you're in, even in your house by yourself, because you could end up slipping or falling on your house. You're being super drunk, and you could end up getting, severely injured. Let's put it that way. But anyways, be responsible. Drink responsible.
Look at me. See, I'm always stoned. Never touched a substance, but always stoned. You can judge me whichever way you want. Because one thing is, I'm stoned in such a way that I have not lost my judgment at all. And at the same time, whichever way you judge me has absolutely no impact on me because I'm completely stoned.
I'll say this too: if you know who you are, then regardless of what anyone says, it's either true or not, and you cannot deny the truth. Mind you, obviously, people's opinions about you are subjective, so if to them they think you're a complete a-hole, well, maybe you are. To them, obviously. Or maybe to the world, I don't know. And if that's the truth, then you're like, well, I've accepted that, and I'm not going to deny it. So what if they call you that? If you know who you are, the way you are, then no matter what someone says about you, it's going to be like, okay. Does that person know me? No? Okay, well then they're just saying words. They're spewing nonsense. If it's like your close friend saying you're an a-hole, and you're like, oh man, it could mean something. But like, why would your close friend say that? Especially if you're still friends, and they just said that out of not out of hate, but because maybe something has changed in your life. Maybe you have changed you didn't notice. I mean, don't get me wrong. We all don't always 100% pay attention to ourselves 100% of the time, all the time, and throughout the entirety of the day. But sometimes you slip up, and you go like, "Why did you say that?" It's like, "Well, because this is what you did, and did." And like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I could see that." You know, a good friend will always tell you the truth, regardless of how it makes you feel. Don't get me wrong; they can say it in such a sweet way, but they still should tell you the truth outright.
Having said that, why this consumption of alcohol and drugs is growing the way it's growing in the world is, well, nobody can really put a number on this, but just to say to what extent. In the last 25 years in India, probably alcohol consumption has gone up 10,000%. What do you think?
100 times, really?
You know, I'm telling you, when we were growing up, in the town, there would be just 10, 15 people who drink. In a small town, I'm saying. People say, in that family they drink, we won't give our girls to that family, you know. But today, if you don't serve drink at your wedding, nobody will come. So why this need for alcohol and drug has gone up so much? This is because the heavens have been collapsing. Yes. I was in Bangalore just 3, 4 weeks ago. There were over 8,000 people doing a 2-day program with me. And just casually I asked, how many of you think you will go to heaven? Only 5 hands went up. Then I asked, are you all the hell people? No, it's just that both heaven and hell have collapsed in people's minds.
So I think what he means here, let me see if I can get it right. It's the sheer fact that… Actually, I have a different opinion. Life has become too easy. That any kind of stress that we meet is something we've never met before. People don't go through hard times. And this is something that's happening in the United States and a lot of places that are very much developed. When I say places developed, I don't mean countries, I mean places, because there are cities out there that are very well developed, but the rest of the country may not be. Um, but just to make the point, and then in these areas, you'll find these people who have their lives so easy, and then when there's a little bit of a struggle, they've never dealt with that before. They don't know how to handle it, and that's when they turn to drugs and alcohol because they need that out of their mind. And of course, I believe Sadhguru, Swami Sarvarpananda, Acharya Prashant, all these talking about inner engineering or looking at your true self. You know, they depend on exterior things and they don't know who their true selves are. They don't know that the fact that they have control over the body. It's always about exterior, 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 posterior, you know, where everything in the outside must look good and the inside might be crumbling. But so long as you can keep that outside looking good, life will go on. Meaning, their friends, their families, their status, their exterior, the way they look physically, and how they present themselves, all happy, joyful, like their life is perfect. But when you look inside of them, they're probably like freaking in misery because they're having to work so hard to keep up this ridiculous lifestyle, have to do all this ridiculous things, to do things that they don't want to do to keep up this facade that they have. Um, and then, you know, they always compare themselves to other people. Like apparently, because of the internet, where you look at like I don't know Instagram, I think, or TikTok maybe or Facebook, where you see all these people with lavish lifestyles going in this boat, this fantastic boat that only two people are in, with this beautiful lake and a sunset, and this island cottage that they stay and sleep in, and when they wake up, they see the sunrise or the sunset, depending on the time of day, I guess. And you're looking at that, you're like, oh my gosh, I want my life to be like that. My life is so horrible right now. And I do believe that's one of the issues going around in, at least in the Western world for sure. Like, these people want these grandeur lifestyles. So their lifestyle, as it is right now, is not good enough. So they think their life is suffering because, they have food, they have water, they have shelter, and that's suffering because they don't have this grand lifestyle. That's my opinion.
This happened. Okay, I'll tell a joke to you. One day, a nice Catholic girl, Mary, came home and she was distressed. Her mother asked, Mary, my baby, what happened? Why are you like this? She said, Anthony proposed to me. So mother said, isn't that wonderful? You've been with him for so long, is it good he proposed to you? Why are you unhappy about that? Mama, he sins with me without any regret. And he doesn't even believe in hell. How do I marry him? The mother said, don't you worry, my child. Both of us together will prove him wrong.
I don't know if I got that or not. In one segment, I think I got it, but for the most part, I don't know for sure.
So heavens have collapsed. When I say heavens have collapsed, it's like this. Maybe you heard this somewhere. There was a Sunday school going on in Alabama. Alabama is a very special state in the United States. So the local priest was going full fire. But unfortunately, the audience were not like you, they were all tiny tots. Catch them young policy. Full force he was going. He was enjoying his own rhetoric so much. He stopped midway and asked, what do you have to do to go to heaven? Of course, little Mary in the front row stood up and said, if I scrub the church floor every Sunday morning, I will go to heaven. Absolutely. Another little girl stood up and said, if I share my pocket money with my less privileged friend, I will go to heaven. Correct. Another boy stood up there and said, if I help people who are in need, I will go to heaven. Correct. Little Tommy in the back bench stood up and said, you gotta die first. That's a qualification. If you want to go to heaven, you got to die first. So when you die, whether you like it or you don't like it, unless you're Elon Musk, we usually bury your body here or burn it or cut it and throw it to the birds. Something we will do depending on what tradition you belong to. But we will put this body back to earth because after all, we picked it up from this planet. At least that much responsibility you must have. You should not take this body and go away. So, fortunately, nobody can take it and go. If you've not done anything eco-friendly in your life, this is one thing you will do. You will put this body back onto this earth. It's a very good thing. So you went to heaven And what is in heaven? This you must know. In the Hindu heaven, food is very good. Yes, Nala himself cooks for you. If you are a foodie, you must go to Hindu heaven. In another place, there are those white-gowned ladies floating in the clouds. They usually don't have legs, they're just floating. Because to float, you don't need legs. Common sense. If you like that kind of ambience, that's where you go. If you go to another place, you will encounter virgin problems. If that's what you want, that's where you go. But the only problem is, you don't have a body. When you don't have a body, what do you do with good food and virgins, I want to know. So, see, this is the first time in the history of humanity that this many people in the world can think for themselves. Otherwise, your priest, your mullah, your pandit or a book was thinking for you. The first time that so many people can think for themselves. Or they're thinking right, thinking wrong, there are many issues about that. But they're thinking right, thinking wrong, but they're thinking. First of all, women. Till about 50 or 100 years ago, a woman was not even supposed to think. She's not supposed to think. This straight away 50% of the population has burst into the thinking process. It's a huge number. For the first time, this is only second, third generation which is beginning to think for themselves. Otherwise, they were not even supposed to think. So when so many people are thinking, see, when you talk to somebody, you think somebody else is illogical, but in their mind, there is some kind of crazy logic functioning, isn't it? When you get into argument with people, you see this. You think you're logically correct, but the other person also thinks he's logically correct. He has his own crazy sense of logic. But they have their own framework of logic. So all illogical things are naturally collapsing. Still, this generation has not fully walked away from it, still there is fear. They can't openly say, there's no goddamn hell or heaven. They're still fearful about it, but they're trying to make a little heaven for themselves here. So, hey, wait. So naturally, when they're not able to do it for themselves out of their own intelligence, they will fall back on chemicals. Today, just to take very affluent societies, because every society is aspiring to be like that, let's say you take United States, which is the most affluent nation on the planet right now. I don't know if half the IIT after graduation will be in United States, because wherever I go in US, whoever I meet, they say, I'm IIT this, I'm IIT that. So, 70% of US population is on prescription medication. Another 30%, of course, buying it off the back streets. 70% on prescription medication means, though… See, what is affluence? Let's understand this. Why an individual person or a society or a nation seeks affluence is, at first level, it'll give us a choice of food. If I'm affluent, I can eat what I want. Eating means nourishment. I can nourish myself well. When a man is poor, the biggest problem is, I'm not well nourished. So at first level, it is a choice of nourishment. At a second level, it's a choice of lifestyles. So you are the most affluent nation, you have an enormous choice of nourishment and an enormous choice of lifestyles. But 70% is on medical prescription medication. $3 trillion of healthcare bill, it can sink a nation, all right? is bigger than our budget. Our GDP is only 2.7 trillion. $3 trillion worth of health care in America for quarter the number of people that we are. Most affluent nation. Obviously, affluence is not working. To be healthful, you need chemicals. To be joyful, you need chemicals. To be peaceful, you need chemicals. To be ecstatic, of course, that is ecstasy. So, I'm not even looking at it morally. It's never a moral issue for me. All I'm saying is, if we become chemically dependent, because there's also another scale. The food that we eat is full of chemicals, the water that we drink is full of poison. Some genius came up with this idea that you can poison the water, kill all the bacteria and it won't poison me. I don't know where this idea came from. Some genius idea this is. Because on this planet, all life, whether a single-celled animal or the most complex creature, which is we are made the same way, essentially the fundamental design is same. What kills a bacteria also kills us, maybe it takes a bigger dose, that's all. Water is poisoned, air is poisoned. Air, I believe, will get purified in the next 10 to 15 years' time because a whole lot of movement is happening in that direction. Air we can handle very easily. The biggest problem is soil and water. So that is another level of chemicals. If 90% of this population right now is on chemicals, believe me, the next generation that we produce will be a generation which is much less than us.
I kind of already believe that, not necessarily in the sense of what he's saying, but just in terms of mentality as well. Just as we develop new technologies, life gets easier and easier. Yet somehow we don't see it that way. We see it, life gets harder. Life is hard. But we have air conditionings, heaters, fans, cars. We have fast food restaurants where you just can drive up to it and get your food. You have Uber Eats and I don't know what else you can, where you order on the app and they deliver it to your house. Oh my gosh, life is so much harder. No, life has gotten so much easier, yet somehow people think life is hard. It's really weird, and it's because of the mental state that I think what I don't know what it is, but whatever it is makes, I think it's safety, I guess, but it puts us in a weaker mental state where struggles aren't we don't struggle as much, and I think that's the reason why our mental state can't handle struggles, because we don't handle struggles very much anymore. Or maybe again, I guess I can only give kind of myself an example. Where I grew up, we didn't have toilets inside the house, didn't have hot water. I remember showering outside because we had barrels full of cold water, so I was outside butt naked, 4 or 5 in the morning, scooping water from a bucket and pouring over myself, and remember running around because it was freaking cold, and then soaping him up real quick, and then rinsing again, and then going back inside and getting dressed because it's freaking cold. And you could say, like, you could boil some water and mix the cold and the warm, which is what sometimes I do. But sometimes you don't have enough time for that, so you just freaking grab the cold water and you just run around. And shoes were like fancy. So if you had shoes and you wore that every day, that means you're like rich or something. I had flip flops when I was growing up. Anyways, I guess when you grew up in kind of a harsh environment, I won't say harsh, but I don't know what to call it, because to me that's just growing up. That's normal. Running around butt naked outside, throwing water over your head, to shower yourself. That's normal to me. Now, obviously, I can see clearly now that when I moved to the United States, you have hot water on demand, pretty much. But I guess when you don't have all the luxuries in life, you learn to appreciate the luxuries in life, which could be just hot water in your shower or a shower inside the house. Flushable toilets. We didn't have that, and then your shampoo that comes in a plastic pack this tall, and you had to squeeze a little bit out so you can make that little packet last longer. But yeah, anyways, and I think going through, to me, that wasn't hardship. Again, I don't know why it wasn't hardship at all. That's just normal everyday life. But I guess when you can compare and contrast from your when you were younger to the way things are now, you can you can really hopefully see the appreciation of technology and how you're living now, and not complain or think that you're harder times than you were before. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of complaining going on in the United States, and honestly, it's kind of pathetic. Some of these people and what they're complaining about. They never struggle in it. The only thing I can think of the people that complain about these certain things, I'm not going to point out specifics, is that they've never struggled in their life. And as a matter of fact, they probably got everything they wanted, and so they're seeking to be heroes.
If we produce a next generation less than ourselves, we have committed a crime against humanity.
Too late.
Because the next generation must be at least one step ahead of us, otherwise we've lost it. We've lost the entire process of civilization when we produce a next generation which is actually less than us. So, we are heading towards this rapidly unless we teach individual human beings how to simply sit here and be blissed out. Stoned enough or no? Just look at it. But am I conscious enough, alert enough, clear enough? If there was a way to intoxicate yourself without losing your judgment, without losing your awareness, without losing your intelligence, it's a great thing. Intoxication is a fantastic thing. Only problem is, it takes away your judgment, it takes away your intelligence, incapacitates you. That is the problem, isn't it? Because life is about enhancement, life is not about crippling yourself. Now in the name of intoxication, you're crippling yourself, all right? This happened. Shankaran Pillai was walking in London. No, London?
I haven't heard this guy in a long time from Sadhguru. I can't wait for what kind of adventures we have today.
He just came out of an Irish bar and he put one leg in the gutter and kept on dragging and walking late in the night. The London bobby, the policeman, came, looked at this and said, "Hey, you look totally drunk." The Shankaran Pillai said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Absolutely, you're drunk. Look at the way you're walking, half in the gutter, half on the street." Shankaran Pillai said, "Thank you so much. Thank you, because I thought I was crippled." When people are drunk, they're crippled, isn't it? If you could be drunk without being crippled, you could be enhanced, it would be great. Is it true? Ask anybody, you're not in the medical sciences, but ask anybody, is it true that this body here is the greatest chemical factory in the universe right now? The universe that we know at least? Only problem is you're a lousy manager. If you know how to manage this, you would be like me, always blissed out. Anybody can say what they want, anybody can do what they want. This is like this only. Because I have not given this privilege to anybody, that somebody can make me happy, somebody can make me unhappy, somebody can make me miserable. Right now, you are a consequence of other people's opinions. Where do you plan to go like this? Anybody can ruin you. You went outside, somebody told you, "Shreya, you are the most wonderful human being we have seen." Then you were floating on that cloud, what number? What number? 9. Oh, in South we do 11. You were floating on cloud whatever number, and you came home, people at home told you who you really are. And the cloud will crash. No. It's very important that neither this way or that way, we listen to everybody because we could be doing something wrong. Hello? Any moment we could be doing something wrong, so we listen to everybody. But what they say will not determine how I am. Never, ever. This you must fix and you must tell your friend when she's not drunk, because otherwise she won't understand.
Thank you, Sadhguru, for answering our questions. We want to ask you a lot more things, but due to time constraints, we'll move to the next section of social media questions, where a lot of people have asked various questions on the social media platform, and we would request you to answer a few of them.
So the first question is from Georgie. Sadhguru, we know that you are always a game for adventure, but many young people mindlessly get into adventure sports and even lose their lives in the process. What is your suggestion for the youth who get into adventure sports?
I'm not sure what adventure sports is. That's interesting. Is it like like going, like you see like these cars going out in like dunes and stuff and jumping and stuff?
Well, I have no right to advise anybody on this arena because I did everything that could have killed me 2 dozen times. But I'm here somehow. So, see, when we say adventure, you can have ventures in your life or you can have adventure. Adventure means you don't know where your next foot is going to be. That's adventure. That means there is danger. No danger, everything safe, there is no adventure, isn't it? It's a venture. I'm not against ventures, but you're talking about adventure. That means you want to step into something that you don't know, isn't it? If you step into what you know, unpredictable, that's not an adventure, that's just an activity. So, I must tell you this. Why should I tell you all this and make some crazy people do something crazy? Well, one thing, my father, the physician, and constantly worried about me. His greatest worry was, he would knock his head and say, "This boy has no fear in his heart, what will happen to him?" I've heard this dialogue right from the age of 5, 6. He has no fear, what will happen, what will happen? One day I was around 11, he said the same thing. He has no fear in his… because about 12-foot long cobra came, I just picked it up and walked away. So he kind of… this is the first time he's seeing, I've been doing since I was 6. The first time he saw. And then he had a Vespa scooter. From the age of 9, I've been riding it without him knowing. I was cleaning it for him, but I was riding it. So one day, it's in front of our house, the road is slopey like this. I'm just coming in, putting it in the neutral gear and I'm standing on the seat and coming like this on the Vespa scooter. He saw me and his heart broke. So he said, "This boy has no fear in his heart, what to do?" Then I asked him, "When did fear become a virtue?" He said, "See, I told you he has no fear." So why are we thinking that we have to enter life fearfully? If you're fearful, fear is one of the worst emotions that people go through in their lives. Why fear happens is, you are imagining something that's yet to happen. Hello? You're imagining something. So what you're suffering is not some situation, you're suffering your own imagination. No, imagination is a fantastic thing. You're an architect, you must imagine, but if every building that you imagine, if you fear it may fall down, it'll drive you crazy. Even in architecture, there is adventure, isn't it? You must see Kharagpur. Have you seen Ranakpur in Rajasthan? You must see.
I'll counter a little bit, Sadhguru here. I mean, whenever they build architect, if they build it to code, well, obviously, I don't know what he was talking about the situation, but essentially, if these codes are meant to keep the building standing and safe, you wouldn't have that fear. But if it's not built up to code and it's worse than code, meaning that it's weaker in structure, you would have that fear. So, for example, with them riding the moped, if you're riding it correctly with a helmet and whatever protective gear is required, you won't necessarily have that fear. Because you'd be fine, especially if you keep your eyes on the road and be aware of other drivers. But if you're standing up on a seat on neutral on a slippery road, you could injure yourself. That's something to fear. And obviously, his father feared that he would get hurt. So, to be fair, I'm going to push back on Sadhguru on this one a little bit. Fear is a healthy thing. Unhealthy fear, obviously, well, what is unhealthy fear and what is healthy fear? Right? That's the question, isn't it? Healthy fear keeps you alive and safe. Unhealthy fear keeps you from living life.
Ranakpur also has Kumbhalgarh within 20 kilometers. It's the second largest wall on the planet. Most Indians know because we keep all the things that we should be proud of a secret. The second largest wall on the planet, which if you look at it aerially, you would mistake this to be Great Wall of China. It's that big. But most Indians don't even know there is a wall like this, it's in Kumbhalgarh. Close to that is Ranakpur. This architect is a madman. But he's a very super sane madman because he knows what he's doing. See, if you build a building, this is a temple with 1,000 columns. If you're thinking about safety, what would you do? Just in case over a period of time, if one column collapses, because those days the material is only stone, there is no steel and concrete and stuff. You would make sure if one column falls down, there'll be another column which will keep the temple up. No, he built it in such a way, the audacity of him is such, if you pull down one column, the entire temple will come down. His pride in his intelligence and capability is such that he made it in such a way, if one column comes, the temple should not exist. And it's standing for over 500, 600 years without any issue. You will see something like that in the yoga center. We built an elliptical dome, no steel, no concrete. And at the top, it's only 8 inches thick. And just to freak people, I left a 9 feet diameter hole. People said, this will going to collapse. It will not collapse. If you don't have any adventure in your life, in whatever you do, it doesn't matter, in every sphere of life, there is room for adventure. This means you must trust your capability and competence and one step more than that. There is a risk, of course. If there is no risk, there's no adventure, isn't it? So will young people get killed? Yes, unfortunately, sometimes it does. Before I became 35 years of age, at least 12, 13 of my friends died. Some in motorcycles, some in hang gliding, and all the things we were doing together, some of them died. Well, they didn't kill me, but could I live without having done all those things? No. Even if one of those situations had ended me, still I would do it. Not simply out of egoistic jingoism that you want to do something others cannot do, it's not about that. It's about stretching yourself beyond your limits somewhere. But today, the world is far more organized, there's a whole lot of equipment. When we were doing it, crazy things, we had no equipment of any kind. We just did things just like that. But today there is safety equipment, there are systems, there are nets and there are so many things. Well, one of you should start a venture in adventure and bring the right equipment and everything. See, right now, some of the young boys, when they get the two-wheeler, they want to do some stunt, as I was doing, standing on the scooter and riding. They want to do those things. I'm saying, if you cannot stop them, only thing is they should not be doing it on the street. We must create a space where they can do it with a reasonable amount of safety. Is it 100% safe? No. Nothing is 100% safe. All of us are mortal, isn't it? But we must create reasonable levels of safety where youth will go through adventure with the minimum amount of risk. No risk adventure, there is no such thing. I was one person, people were very surprised when I spoke for Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu. They said, Sadhguru, you cannot say this. I said, see, are you capable of building sports arenas in every village? Can you make them play football, this one, adventure sport, everything in the villages, can you? There's really nothing. The only thing that they have is a traditional sport where once a year they play, which is risky, of course, but it comes from a tradition of doing something. It's risky for the animal, it's risky for the man, actually more risky for the man than the animal. When I spoke for it, everybody resisted, you can't say this. I said, see, youth without any sense of adventure are not youth. You can already bury them as old men. They have to do something, but this does not mean they have to do wild things on the street. We can create situations and spaces where they can do this with reasonable amount of safety. There's no absolute safety. Some of the parents who are here don't approve of this, but otherwise they'll do it somewhere where you can't see. This is one thing I noticed in United States, especially our centers in Tennessee, so I'm just seeing this. If you go to your shop, I go to your motorcycle shop, and I see they made motorcycles for 3-year-olds. They actually built motorcycles for them. 3-year-olds are riding full on in the dirt bikes. I thought, this is great, parents are standing there fully helmeted, jacketed, everything, they're riding. This is great because this needs to happen. Otherwise, they will do something wild when they are 15, 16, without any training, without any preparation, without the safety equipment, then we don't know how it'll end.
I'm gonna pause you right there. I kind of understand what Sadhguru was trying to say towards the end there. I mean, I also think of it like we need to put our kids to some type of struggle. So these adventures are kind of a struggle because it's not always planned out. If it's planned out, it's an adventure. If it's not planned out, to a degree, it's an adventure, which you have to go through hardships sometimes. But this hardships is a great lesson for children, obviously with supervision. But hardship is a great character builder, a great way to hopefully develop a human being so that when they face hardships later on in life, it's not gonna freaking cripple them. It's not gonna make them cry. It's not gonna make them break down because, oh my gosh, hardships. Oh my gosh, I didn't get my freaking coffee in the morning. Now my entire day is ruined. You'd be like, oh, well, it's just coffee. I just drink some water, or maybe I make some coffee at the shop, or at the work, or at the wherever. No big deal. Where you see what some people may consider ruining their day, these people who has dealt with hardships are like, well, that's just nothing. I mean, good Lord, that's easy. If that's the worst thing that happens today, that's amazing. It's a great day. But anyways, so far, there'll be one more video after this. So if you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.